Hello and welcome to L.P.P. Base Camp, Episode 3. I'm Paco, and I got the three of the OGs with me, Jerome, Garrett, and B. Watt. Guys, what's up?
What's going on?
Hey,
So did you just have a good New Year's?
Absolutely.
pretty good.
B. Watt?
No.
Okay.
I went to Miami.
We won't go. Well, we know you did. You
Yeah.
went to the
I had Mexican
Orange Bowl or
food and a
something.
nap.
Orange Bowl. That was great. Tennessee football. Let's go.
Alright, so, I know we want to get the Buffalo River out. I didn't go with you, so, what all consists of getting the Buffalo River trip started, Jerome?
Well, it all kind of, like I said before, it all started from a YouTube video. Pete Brannigan, I think is his name. And he don't make videos anymore, but that video just kind of hooked me. And from there, when we started talking about doing a river trip, camping trip, me and Garrett and B. Watt, and, we started planning for the Buffalo in February. I mean, I'm planning now for the February trip, doing some research on shuttles and things, because we're going to do a different part of the river this year. But it all just kind of come down to what was it you said, B. What, scrambling to get our shit together?
For the first one, absolutely. 'Cause it was more of like, what we ought to do one day, not like, and then, about a month out, it's like, well, it's on. This is booked. Like, if you ain't got it, you better get it. 'Cause we're leaving.
Yeah, and then Garrett was just he was a little wishy-washy there. And then he had a buddy, they were talking at school, and he said, what are you going to do on spring break? He said, oh, I'm going to the Buffalo. Garrett said, really? Me too. And then he got all excited. He was all in then.
Yeah, I was. I'll talk loud enough. Be what? Yeah, I was excited to go on a trip, but I guess wasn't really sure how I was going to do it because I definitely didn't have all the stuff, and it was weighing on me like, dang, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Just kind of started getting everything together, and then McKinley was like, we're going to go to Buffalo and do that trip. We've been talking about doing that. We should do it together. And I was like, well, dang, there's another person that's counting on me to go.
Yeah, and
Let's freaking do it.
day one, I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, but day one, we're sitting in camp, and Garrett goes, man, this is awesome. I ain't never done anything like this before. And I said, what do you mean you've never done anything? Oh, I've never primitive camped. I was like, oh man, what have I got myself into? Because B. Watt said previous experiences camping in the woods, and Caleb's followed me around everywhere I've ever went, But now, you'd never know it, would you?
Okay. Shout out Troop 110, by the way.
Troop 110.
So, to go back a little bit, back to where we started, everybody was discussing who was all going. I know I went on a trip with you before, and I know you cap out at an amount. So how do you decide on where you cap out on the amount of people that goes?
Well, it's kind of limited space. It's not so much as limited space. It's because, you got the whole river. But if you're traveling in a group like that, you've got to be selective about campsites and, who's hanging hammocks and who's in tents. First year, me and Caleb was in hammocks and everybody else was in tents. So you didn't have to find but 4 good trees or even 3 good trees. But this last year, the current, everybody except for 2, I think 6 out of 8.
And now, whenever
You run into a problem, too, when, you've got a split group. Some are in a hammock, some are in a tent. You could throw a tent about anywhere. But a hammock, yeah, you got to be a little more selective when you got a group of hammock campers opposed to tent campers, for sure.
and like I said, on the current, we had 8 people, and on the Buffalo, we had 7. That's about our max, really. That's about as many people can go on a big trip like this because of selectivity of campsites. Unless you really have 2 people tent camping in one tent, like they're a couple or something maybe. That could work out. Like Madeline and McKinley, they're camping in one tent. It really knocked down on
Space.
the space, yeah. So we had 4 tent campers and opposed to 5.
And
So really only 6 people were having to find a spot to sleep at.
Yeah, and one of the other things is your shuttles. First year we went to Ponca, found an outfitter, and they shuttle your car to your takeout point. And I think it was $120 per vehicle. This year it's going to be $200 per vehicle because we're going to a different location. And it's because that place is it's remote. There's not a whole lot of roads to get from point A to point B, and you've got to drive, an hour north to get 2 hours south. Finding campsites to accommodate your full group, but that and getting everybody out there. It's a 12-hour drive.
Who rode with you, Jerome?
First year, Caleb. It was me and Caleb, and we just hauled the boats on top of the Forerunner, and then you and B-Wad.
Mine and B-Wad's kayak situation on my Subaru.
Leaving Sevierville, Tennessee, going to northwest Arkansas at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I had to go to Easter church for my parents, and my parents didn't even go. Me and my grandfather were the only ones that showed up for Easter dinner, or Easter Sunday that morning. So I was really pleased about that. I like going to church with my papa, but church so my parents would be appeased, and they didn't even go. But our kayak situation there, how we loaded them suckers up.
Made a little racket, didn't it?
Oh, God. We had my 12-foot green as sand and B-Watt's purple.
Mm-hmm.
Purple.
Old Faithful.
Yep. 10-footer D10.
And that D10 was stacked
you
on
have
top of my green one.
Did you have a lot of humming going on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so those were on top of a Subaru Forester.
One strap was just beating the hell
Factory
out of it.
roof rack, too. What was didn't we cut the bolts on your mounts?
So it wouldn't smash
So they wouldn't
my
smash your window,
my-
your sunroof.
sunroof. Oh, that was interesting. And, whenever we go on our little trips around here, we're traveling maybe to Knoxville. We're only putting 2 straps on top of those cars, right? We're only going over top of the front and the back. That's it. But by gosh, whenever we going 600 miles to Arkansas, we tied down the back of the car and the front of the car. Like,
about
we had-
6 on yours and 6 on mine.
We had to go 6 because we had to strap. No, I think it was 8. I think it ended up being 8 because we strapped B-What's to mine and then to the car.
So
And
they
then
were
strapped
just
mine to
double
the
stacked?
car. Yeah. Because neither one of our kayaks would stand up on its side. Never really packed up kayaks like that on top of my rack, but
It got
did
you
it.
there, didn't it?
oh yeah, buzzing. B-What was about to go crazy.
Now we don't.
What do we have to
do
listen
that.
to, B-What? What do we have to listen to on the way over there?
What were we listening to? Oh, Serial Killers podcast.
Yes.
All kinds of them.
And we had that sucker turned up as loud as we could because he was.
Couldn't hear it.
A little humming. We got a trailer now, so we don't have that. It'll carry 8 kayaks, so I
Every
think
time you stop
we
at a gas
called.
station,
We hauled
you turn
everybody's.
and say what? That ain't going
That ain't going away.
You can't touch a strap without saying that. That's man thing.
I can't touch a strap without getting on the back tire.
Also, with the planning is, how do you determine how many miles you do a day on?
Well,
what do you do?
You
Usually
want
a
to take
5-day
this one,
trip?
Garrett?
So we're doing a 4-day trip. I figured, we could do 38 miles a day. Not a big deal, Do the whole river. That's what I thought at first. So I watched a YouTube video, and these guys went after like a semi-flood, and the water was moving like crazy. And
8 mile an hour. The water's running 8 mile an hour.
they finished the whole river in 4 days. And I was like, "What? We could do that." And then I got thinking about it. I was like, Madeline's with her dad in a canoe. I don't know how they're going to do. I'm not sure about that. And I don't even know about McKinley's kayak. And we'll get to that
Poor
later.
kayak.
But, so I ended up making the miles, 78 miles for the whole trip. You got to be vigilant about who your group is, too. We've never kayaked with Madeline, John, and McKinley. You got to know their level of confidence also.
How many miles did you get in one day? First day, day one. How many miles did you put in?
I think 11.
11 miles.
Yeah.
I think is what it was. And
What
We
was
on
the
the
goal
water
per
at what?
day?
We on the water
20.
at 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah, the goal was 20 a day, and first day we did 10. I had a little conversation with Garrett. I said,
Oh, Jerome was worried for sure.
I was like, boys, we ain't gonna make it. We ain't gonna make it by Friday, 10 miles a
His
day.
narrative day one, man, we ain't gonna make it. He just kept mumbling to himself. Just pace.
And but everybody picked up the pace, and everybody did good. We did push hard one day. We did 24 miles, I think. 27 miles.
Yeah. 27 miles one day. That was, God, it was rough. And our night's rest wasn't great either.
We'll get to that in a minute.
But
It got better. That last day, we were covering 10 miles in about 3 hours.
Yeah, that was
Absolutely.
the river moves.
And
The
not
farther
driving
down
that
you
hard.
go, the faster it moves. Of course, as you get below some of those tributaries that are feeding it, and you go from 4 mile an hour to 6 or 8 mile an hour. You can put some river miles under you in a hurry. And Bewat and Caleb, they're always in the front. We're always playing catch up, trying to catch up to them.
Giddy up.
And no, B-What's not big on the trip planning. He's like, just tell me when, tell me how much we're doing, we'll get there. A lot of up to me and Jerome, and that goes for both trips and this upcoming trip. We just had to kind of figure out how much are we able to do, how much of our group is going to be able to handle it. Like going on the trip this past year, a whole new different group of people. Some of us never done long trips. You got to project to your crowd whenever you're planning those kinds of things.
Yeah, we had 4 other people with us this year. Eric has been all over the country in a canoe, so didn't really worry about him. But you've got to really take in consideration your when you're setting mileage, is who's with you. Can they handle 10 miles a day? Can they handle 15 miles a day?
Because we knew, Jerome and I knew, Jerome, myself, kayaking wise, we could do that many miles in a day. Like we knew we could do it. We knew B-What could do it. We weren't 100% sure about Caleb, for sure, doing that many miles in a day. And then we had no clue on Madeline, John, and McKinley. So, definitely shortened the full river.
Now, was that the first time you was kayaked with those two?
Yeah,
Yeah, with those
all
3
three
people.
of them.
Those
Yeah.
three?
McKinley works with me at the school, and his girlfriend, Madeline, she's from Missouri.
They've been on the
Yeah,
Buffalo
she's been on
before.
But yeah, she grew up on the 11 point.
Yeah.
So they busted our ass on that canoe.
Oh yeah, dude, it got going at some point. Sometimes it's bad.
Yeah, her and
John
John could really, when they needed to go, they could go.
and her dad still lives in Missouri. He drove down and met us, and it was it's good. They were great company for sure. And I'd go on a kayaking trip with them again
Oh yeah.
for sure. But I'd definitely put McKinley in a better boat. Like I said,
So day
It was.
one, we get there. I got there like midnight, and I think you boys pulled in about 2 a.m. So we get up the next morning, set up the outfitter. We're loading. We're getting ready to get on the boat on the river, and they've got a little place that they've made just for launching, customers and tourists. So we get over there, and you've got to kind of like paddle upstream just a little bit, and then you cut back down. But there's like it's like a tree that they've used and they've put in there with rocks. Caleb is the last person in the water.
Watch
Caleb
all those people take
watched-
the same line.
Watched every one of us. Caleb paddle upstream and then cut back down river. What's Caleb do? He goes off the little berm and the little tree and pours out an entire cooler, all of his gear.
But this was right at the start, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so he had a bottle of bourbon, and B-Watt had a special release pickle beer. It's gone.
I'm going to talk about dejected right off the bat. I said, man, I was just about to drink it. But it worked out. Yeah, me and McKinley, went before y'all. We were paddling together. We got around the bend, and it was just me and him. So we pulled over. Like, hey, let's wait on him, man. So he pulls out his pole. He's fishing a little bit. I think he might even caught one. But then I see somebody come by that I know was behind us. I was like, hey, man, y'all see somebody back? Yeah, there's people back there picking up all their stuff. I was like, yeah, that's us. Spilled the cooler. Total yard sale right off.
That was Caleb's first swim
of many.
of many. He is the king.
Heads up, boys. Hard crack coming.
All right, so B, what I got a question for you. On the way to the Buffalo, there was a place on the way there. What was it called?
Peppermint Hippo.
What is the Peppermint Hippo?
The Jiggle Shack on the side of I-40 that looked like a damn mirage. Out of nowhere, this place appears, and it's just pink from head to toe on the
glowing.
outside.
It was
I'm not
glowing.
even sure how you got to it, because there wasn't an exit between.
I don't know.
You know, it's on that frontage road thing. I guess everybody talks about.
On
it's
the
just
frontage
the
road.
It wasn't in Dothan, though.
I had to ask. I've heard about it. I had to ask.
Well,
Peppermint
apparently,
Hippo.
Garrett looked it up, and it's not what I thought it was.
All right, back to the Buffalo trip planning. So when you are planning this, why do you select the start and finish locations?
Well, of course, point of access is the biggest reason. But you got to have an outfitter. You could shuttle your own vehicles back and forth, but man, that's a lot of traveling when you come off a river.
So if you do it yourself, you pretty much have to stage one at the takeout, right?
Yeah.
For somebody to go back.
Right. And it's like a 2.5 hour drive by highway, just because of the roads and how you've got, like I said, you've got to drive. It's not like living in the city where you can go up a block and turn a block over and come back. You've got to drive 10 miles north to get 10 miles west.
Get up in those Ozarks, it's slow going.
Yeah.
Not cruising down the highway.
So it's best to find an outfitter to shuttle everybody.
Yeah,
and pick up.
that's a convenience thing, and I think we all agree on that when we're planning.
Oh, yeah.
When they shuttle, do they charge per boat or per vehicle? Or well, I know you said on the Buffalo they will shuttle your vehicle.
Yeah, if you want to go downriver, there's a couple of outfitters, and like I said, depending on where you're starting, there's several outfitters. You've got to pick one that will shuttle your vehicle if you're wanting to do a multi-day trip. Or, a lot of them, they'll have get in their boat, you paddle it down for the day, and you get out wherever they're set up at, and they'll bring you back to where you put in at.
And I noticed whenever I was looking outfitters that they had set trips. So there was some of the outfitters I looked at, they had like, you could do this trip in 3 days, and it wasn't where we wanted to go. Like it go as far as we wanted to. It didn't really take up all of our time. They didn't really have. Some of the outfitters didn't really have like multi-day trips, plan your own. But you had to search for that, and you also get a lot of information. Those outfitters whenever they shuttle your vehicle.
Just ask if you've got any questions. One of the questions we asked was bears. Do we have to worry about bears out here? And they said no. Usually it's you might see some hogs or something like that, but we've seen some wildlife. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
And another reason why so you're also talking about are you talking about location, like the river?
Where you put in and take
Or
off.
just where we put it.
Start and finish.
I was thinking of location. The reason why we picked the Buffalo again and the Current and going back to Buffalo and also some other rivers that we have in our mind to go to. We consistently keep up with the River Kings on YouTube.
So when you did the Buffalo, what made you decide and choose Buffalo River?
Like I said, it was that video, and it was just some of the stuff that's on that river. So the tallest waterfall, I think it's east of the Rockies.
One big sumbitch.
Anyway, it's 230. Anyway, it's a waterfall
Very cool.
that you can hike to. It's on it was on our first day. I think it might be 5 miles down the river, and if you're not paying attention, you will miss the sign because it's about the size of a license plate.
Big, you were one of the first ones down to the sun, weren't you?
No, I would have kept going right around the bend, like Jerome just said, if I had not seen people collecting over there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You were the first, you were one of the first ones down there. So you stopped us. You're like, hey,
he
right here.
Yeah, he helped us.
209.
209 feet.
So
And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
What was the name of it?
Hemmed in Hollow.
Hemden Hollow.
And it's about, from the river, you walk back about a mile. Nothing strenuous.
Unless you're not from Tennessee, because there was other people that thought it was strenuous.
Yeah, but we live in the Smokies, and everything's uphill here.
That was a walk down the mailbox.
So it wasn't that bad.
No, it really wasn't bad.
Your driveway is probably about as steep as it got.
Madeline and her dad passed the sign and had to
They
paddle
did, yeah.
back upriver,
They had
and
to
it
paddle
was
back up river. Yeah,
and it wasn't just flowing water. Like it was swift water. It was moving.
yeah,
going
because
around that
it
bend.
comes around that bend and it's
the
moving
creek.
pretty decent. And
So-
then there's a creek that comes out of him. Well, of course, the falls feeds a creek that feeds the river. So
So they had to paddle back up quite a bit to get back around that bend and paddle over to Hendon Hollow. And it's kind of funny because like McKinley hiked back with us. He's like, I don't know where Madeline and John are. I don't even see the canoe. And then we get back. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
all right, guess I'm doing it again. I'm going back with Madeline and John.
you did walk it twice.
Yeah, he walked it
didn't you?
twice.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
other than the waterfall, what other attractions did you?
And that's another big reason why we picked the mileage and parts of the trip that we want to take, where we want to take, put in and take out at, because of attractions on the river.
I know
That
there
that
was some
section of
cool
river,
stuff.
that section of river, you got Hemmed In Hollows, the first main attraction, and we went all the way to Gilbert, Arkansas, in that stretch of river, and I'm probably just the things that we saw. Hemmed In Hollow, there's a bluff called Big Bluff. I mean, it's just these big 200-foot tall bluffs, and it's gorgeous.
Just in a big old gorge.
Gray Rock, which is, of course, named for the color. The Nars is what they call it, and that's the Narrows. Everybody calls it the Nars.
Did you understand why they called it Narrows?
I was gonna ask y'all have to explain it because I was looking at it and I'm like, what
It's
y'all looking at?
it's just a little skinny, thin
Footpath.
footpath across the top
Well,
of
I
that
saw
ridge.
so it is a little foot.
Yeah, so you can actually hike from some road where it's at, but
It's-
you can hike from the road to the Nars, and you can hike all the way up across that
Well,
footpath.
I know what y'all are talking about. I didn't know it was a footpath, but
yeah, it's
it
skinny.
would be a footpath for me. Going hands and knees.
Yeah, it's skinnier than some of that
Yeah, it
stuff, like
is.
the chimneys. It's skinnier than the chimneys.
It's a lot like it.
Yeah,
It looked a lot like the chimneys.
My favorite was Skull Bluff. That was so
Skull
cool.
Bluff, yeah,
Oh my
that's
God.
something we've seen, and you were able. Actually, it looks just like a skull in the
It
water,
looks like a skull coming out of the water, and it stops right about the nostril.
and
It's pretty awesome.
we paddled through it. You can paddle your boat through.
Actually paddle
Yeah,
through
you
it?
go
Through the
canals,
eyes,
through the
yeah.
eyes,
Yep.
There actually had a sinus cavity back in there, and you could crawl back up into the sinus cavity. It was really cool.
yeah.
It was spring, so fortunately, Skull Bluff don't have allergies. So
Or correct. Got the attractions and the
Yeah.
locations.
What was your favorite attraction, B? What?
That would be mine.
Skull Rock.
Yeah, Skull Rock.
Other than
Or
the
Skull
water itself.
I think just seeing the humongous bluffs was my favorite thing. Just paddling in between all the bluffs, and as you turn a corner, and it might be another 200-foot bluff, but God, it's a totally different sight because of the way the sun's hitting
It's-
off of it, the way the water reflects off of it.
you
It
pictures.
depends on what's going on beside it, like how the rapids are rolling, and it's the rock formations. Oh my God, it was amazing. It
And
was cool to see.
And some
Pictures
clean
and-
water running off.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gorgeous water.
Yeah, you could just hold your hand, cup your hand out and drink it.
I did a couple
Garrett
times.
did.
Just running through that moss.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience that if you're a kayaker and you want to go camp somewhere, that's definitely put that at the top of your list.
On our 27-mile day, I ran out of water and I was thirsty, and I was like, I'm not stopping and filtering water. I'm not doing it. And I made myself 2 Nalgene's every day. I had myself enough for the river, and I ran out of water that day because we were booking it. It was warm. My gosh, like B.O. was saying, there was this moss sitting there, and I was like, we ain't stopped for lunch. I ain't doing no water yet. I stuck my big Nalgene underneath that sucker and just held it under the moss. And made myself a water bottle. Drank it all the way down. Didn't get the shits or anything. It was great. What was your favorite attraction, Jerome?
I'm going with Skull Bluff.
Okay.
That was I probably took more pictures there than I did anywhere else on the river. Well, I did have another favorite attraction, but we'll get to that. I think that was around the same time frame too. Same day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that first day?
No, last.
Oh,
No, next to last. Day 3.
so let's go over a little bit of the campsites and the setups?
Well, like I said, you're looking for a site where you can set 2 hammocks and 4 tents. Was it 4 tents?
So basically, when you pick your campsites, you find out what people are sleeping with before you go. That way,
Yeah, you kind of.
Plan
I mean,
around
everybody talks about what they're going to have, so you kind of know what you're looking for, and it helps to have several sets of eyes looking, because there was days where we stopped, more than once trying to find a site.
Day 2 was rough.
Yeah.
Finding a spot.
Expecting some weather
Well, I know.
coming in, so we wanted to make sure we weren't. If we
Okay.
got a flash flood or something, we weren't going
I
to
wanna
get ourselves trapped in.
backtrack a little bit to the planning, which I know for a fact Jerome watches the Weather Channel for where he's going for weeks. So what? I mean,
And Tory fan, are you?
It's so I watched
Noah.
no National Weather Service. I'm watching it now. We're not leaving until April 2nd. I think it was first week of April, but I'll watch it for a month and a half, and look at predictions, past weather patterns, and I probably don't have to do that. And it's probably, I'm probably just being a little more nerdy than
I think it's a great idea doing all that.
I mean, we were looking at weather 60 days out. It wasn't like super accurate. But
yeah, I mean,
we
it
were looking at
changed.
60 days out, and then when it got to 45,
And-
we're like, dang, what we got?
And I carry
We definitely
I
have
carry a
weather.
scanner, so that way I can, keep up with the weather while we're on the river, because there was some pretty good thunderstorms went across Arkansas.
A couple days
that
were
week.
soggy, but they always ended beautiful.
And-
I think maybe one day we ended on a real rain. We had to set up in the rain. But other than that,
Temperature-wise, it was
most
good.
everything.
It might have gotten the 40s.
It wasn't bad.
I don't think anybody got cold on that trip.
No, not that trip. And before we went out, there was a huge flood in Arkansas, like 3 weeks before we went out.
Yeah,
So kind of like the same way with Missouri, the current
Yeah.
Yeah, except whenever we went to Kern, it was like
days.
3 days before. But it wasn't as big of a flood either. Like the one whenever we went to the Buffalo, like it was
significant.
it was
well, that was that
taking
flood
down
that
towns.
kind of
Like I say,
went
usually have
through
big
all
floods.
the. It wasn't just
Yeah,
here,
it wasn't
because
just-
even,
it was everywhere.
As we were driving west, you could
Yeah.
see all those.
Mississippi was up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That thing was moving.
The other Buffalo River was like at the
The
bridge.
Buffalo in Tennessee. Yeah.
Yeah.
All those spillways along the highway were.
And that had been 2 weeks. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't right then. It was about 2 weeks.
It'd been a wet spring, so we tried to find, like I said, when we were setting up camp, I'd listen to the Weather Channel or the weather on the scanner, and of course you're hearing about the thunderstorm, and us being unfamiliar with where we are exactly in Arkansas, we just kept ourselves prepared all the time.
Okay. Let's sorry, I backtracked.
No, that's
Oh, no, that was a great
Fire
question.
away.
Good
So I
question.
know we were on campsites. I've heard stories. I don't know what camp that it was. Let's hear about some of the camp stories.
That's
So you want
camp
to start on day one?
3.
You want to start on day one?
Start with day one.
All right, day 1. That's the night that you told me. I've never been to camp before.
That was. What, did I tell you at nighttime or did I tell you in the morning? I think I told you in the morning.
I think it was the next
Yeah,
morning.
yeah.
But still, that was campsite 1.
Yeah,
That's
campsite
when you're
one.
firing up your stove. You're like, all right, let me see.
Yeah, let's see what this thing does.
Do what?
Camp one. That was my. Okay, that was
You
my
had
first mistake.
camped. You had camped. You just
Yeah.
never.
Primitive.
Yeah.
Camp one was gorgeous. It was a
White sand beach.
great spot.
Beautiful bluff to look at the next morning. Garrett, you set your tent up
Say
so
about
you
10
could
where I
wake up and
wake
look
up
at
and
it.
look at the bluff, and it was phenomenal.
Apparently,
Next-
I was so wiped out that night that y'all cut a tree down right behind my tent. I never even heard it fall.
We did.
I didn't
Yeah.
wake
It-
up.
McKinley took his little handsaw that he had. I think it ended up breaking towards the end of the trip.
Now,
He
Saw?
used yours.
I
Little
don't know.
Coleman,
Yeah.
fold out saw.
Oh.
Yeah.
But now, this wasn't a live tree.
No, it was a dead tree.
It was a dead tree. So I don't want anybody getting upset with us that
Oh,
we were.
good point. Yeah.
We don't cut down live trees, I
We
promise.
weren't savages.
No.
There's plenty of firewood on the river.
And honestly, we thought there was going to be enough firewood on that spot, but it went away quickly. it looked like it was a lot, but there was very minimal at that camp spot. It was not that great for firewood. So there was a couple falling down.
And this
dead
is early
trees.
spring, so
Yeah, and it hadn't been pillaged yet.
So we had to cut down this dead tree that people was sleeping right behind, probably 10 feet.
Man,
at
I don't think
most.
it was that far.
It was at the head of my
Yeah.
tent,
It was. I
It was
think
right
he was. If he was probably staked out in the root system. He
And
was close.
came down right behind him, and he's like, I don't even think he realized B-Watt's tent was right there behind,
Yeah.
beside that
Yeah.
stump.
It's a good thing he didn't hit me too, because it would have been a
Did it
hard
drop like?
track.
Our great.
So did it drop like right beside your tent?
It fell behind.
No,
You'll have to
fell.
ask
It
him.
was-
fell away.
Yeah, it fell
Yeah,
away.
it-
It fell
it-
back towards, like,
It ended up, but the whole point was the next morning, after that all day hiking, paddling, the whole shenanigans, not sleeping worth a shit to even start. Yeah, I had no idea it fell. I
No
woke up
clue.
this morning like,
and it was loud.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it was loud. I heard it, and I was down closer to the river.
Not to dwell on it, just saying.
It was a little bit of,
Slept right there.
Well, what I want to hear about
Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
it's not two,
the visitor.
not number two.
So we get up, camp one. I pull up Garrett to the side, and I said, dude, we got to make our mileage. And we pushed all day, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
End of the day comes around. We've got 27 miles in us.
And day two was a little bit of a rough patch on
The
that
water.
stretch.
Yeah.
That was about the roughest water we've been in the whole time.
Yeah,
And which is crazy because day one, we had like, what, 7 flips?
Mm.
7 flips, a 2 mile. Well, McKinley had a 4 mile hike because he went twice.
So
Yeah.
And so like B-Wop was saying, like it wasn't just because we were slow on the river. We had other things we wanted to do and
Right.
see. Day one took up a lot of our time at Hampton Hall. We probably spent an hour and a half there at least. And
Yes,
then we
sir.
did have some flips and some stops, so it stood us up. But then day two, we were like, get our crap together. I spent a lot of my time on day two in between groups. So
probably.
because I was in a
Catch
position.
up with us and then go back.
I was in a
Catch
position
up.
where I didn't want to leave McKinley,
Mine and Jerome and
and I didn't
Caleb's
want
only
to leave.
ties to the other group was Gary.
So I was ties to both groups. I was the one that tied both groups together. So I felt obligated to kind of stay in the middle of both groups. So I spent most of my day alone,
Yeah.
and it was great. I just sat there and paddle.
So we stopped, I don't know, 3 times that evening. It's getting dark. And
Looking for a camp.
looking for a campsite. Like I said, you're trying to set up for tents and hammocks.
And expecting a little
And
precipitation in the
we stopped, and everybody said, oh, yeah, this is a good one. I told Caleb, I said, I'm not staying here. There's no place to hang a hammock. We went on down around the river.
I'll tell you about that first spot. There was a ton of widowmakers, and that's what scared me,
Yeah.
honestly.
Up there, though, it was on that higher ground where the tents were, which is what was bad.
And I was like, I don't like these widow. There, it was just a bunch of dead wood, dead trees, and it didn't feel right at all. I agree with Jerome on that one. It did not feel right.
So we get up going down the river a little bit. Me and Caleb pull up, and it's a little steep to get up to, but we walked up into the tree line, and it's this big, huge flat area, and then it goes up, and there's like another little shelf that's not real steep, maybe 20 feet taller than where we was at, and it's another flat spot. I thought, man, this is great. There's trees there where we can hang, plenty of tent sites. So we decided to stay there. Everybody's set up. We're hungry. We're tired. We just want to sit down and drink a beer and eat a little bite and get us some rest.
We didn't just drink one that night.
Oh, so there's
stash.
so there's multiple interesting things happen on the second night.
Oh, yeah. Just back up just a little bit. What's crazy is we found this awesome spot. It was a great spot.
And they
Here's what's crazy. B-Watt, Madeline, McKinley, and John, they had completely unloaded their kayaks. Everyone but me, Jerome, and Caleb had all of our stuff already unpacked. And Madeline and John had a bunch.
they had a canoe.
It was crunch
full.
time. We were running out of daylight.
Yeah.
We had to figure
So
something
they had
out.
it all going up there. And then we were like, we're not staying here. I was like, I don't like it. We can either stay or we can go with them. B-Watt was already packing his stuff back up whenever we said we ain't staying, so he's going with us. And then
Oh yeah. I
they
was like, hey,
pack your bag and tell me where to be, boys.
We get in the boat. We wait for maybe 3 minutes just to see what their idea is. And as soon as we saw Madeline start taking a bag back down to the canoe, one of us will stand down here in the river and wait on you to get there so you know where we're at.
And by the time that you guys got back to the water, me and Caleb had already pulled over and found the
Yeah.
spot, which was maybe 150 yards
Oh, it
down
was
river.
nothing. Because you were going to paddle back up.
Yeah, I was going to paddle back up and tell y'all to come up because I said I want to check out this next site down here, this next location, and see what it looks like. And I was going to paddle back up the river and get you guys.
But it was on the opposite side.
It was on the opposite side of the
Just
river.
about, yeah. Just
But when we first get
100
to the
yards down.
site, there's some down posts, and it's got a couple strings of.
There was some barbed wire we had to walk
It
through.
just looked like a old pasture that some hogs have rutted around in or something. you
because
know?
we noticed there was, we
Not
thought
a-
they were like hog ruts.
Yeah,
we thought
not a
that
lot of recent activity.
it was like all the hogs, razorbacks.
That's what
whatever.
we were mostly worried about.
We were worried about
And
the
at this
razorbacks.
campsite, there's, what would you say, about 20 feet of rocky beach
Yeah, it
before
was
you
beautiful.
get into
Yeah.
the campsite.
Yeah, or more. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
from the river to the
Mhm.
to the edge.
So we made sure to not set up our tents, set up our hammocks in the trails because we thought hogs were going to be maybe coming through there. They, like we were saying with the outfitters, they tell you some stuff. They're like, normally if you get a hog approach in your camp, they're normally just running through. They're not going to bother you unless you bother them. We'll get out of their way. If they come through here, they come through. No big deal. And we'll just
They
sleep
probably
through
wouldn't
it.
come around the fire.
No, and that's the thing. We did keep a fire that whole night.
Most wild animals and wildlife won't come around a fire.
Yeah. Except for one specific animal.
Menacing beast. What was it? It sure as hell wasn't a possum. I know that. It wasn't making the noise that you think an animal this size would make if it was walking across a rocky beach.
So,
You know,
like I said, we're all tired. We just want to drink a beer,
Eat our food.
something, and then get some rest. It was a long day.
Which I had some
Man.
wonderful cream brulee that night, and it was delicious.
It was pretty tasty.
Yeah.
It was
That was
tasty.
some good
Yeah,
stuff.
all that stuff is-
Yeah.
That little crunch.
That was
Yeah.
Backpacker Pantry.
Yes.
Yes,
Cream
that was
brulee.
good. So
These shout outs are unsolicited, by the
Yeah,
way.
they're unsolicited.
But
It's
if
just
you
the
wanna
stuff
come
we
holler
use.
At us, you know,
Butt crack.
Yeah, go ahead, B. What
we're-
you were saying? This animal.
We're sitting around on the fire
Yeah.
talking,
little
and you
bitty
can.
fire too.
And Garrett keeps going, there's something on the riverbank. And I mean, it's just barely making any noise.
It was like,
Yeah, like a little squirrel scattering around.
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't,
but it's like,
You
"Hey,
think-
there's something down there.
It's a raccoon or possum or something like that.
Did you ever see it?
Oh, yeah.
did we see it?
Oh,
Did we see it?
okay.
Oh, we saw it.
Well, at first, all we saw was this.
Garrett shined his light, and these little eyes, they're like 2 inches apart. It's like, oh, shit, that's just a possum. And I sat back down.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, I agree with you. And then all of a sudden,
And then it moved.
Dude just does it again. It moves, and I'm like,
And when it moves,
shine it over, and those eyes were about 6 inches apart.
It was looking right at us.
And B, what did you say?
For
You're
a
like,
minute, I was like, "Is that a damn bear?"
and it's
I
this
thought it was a
big,
bear.
huge black silhouette. And I'm thinking, and of course, we're from the Smokies. And the first thing that goes through my
Black
mind,
bear.
oh, shit, it's a bear. And Caleb had already gotten a hammock.
God.
And I start screaming. And I won't repeat what I said, but I was trying to get him out of his hammock. And he come back to us. And
He stayed.
John,
He stayed in the damn thing.
no, he got up when I was screaming, get out of the hammock, get out of the. And so he comes there. John, Madeline, and McKinley are all up.
they're up on the top.
They're
Part of the
above
camp.
us.
They're
They're
above
all
us.
looking down. We all run to the top of the camp where they're at.
I carry my hatchet in case I need to cut wood, and I always put it in my tent or next to my hammock if something happens.
Oh, we prepared
My
ourselves
God.
for hand-to-hand combat.
We-
I'll tell you that.
I had my knife
He's got his knife
and
a
my hammock
hatchet.
and my hatchet, and I'm sitting there like ready to
I just-
freaking throw down.
I just happen to
B-Wad,
have a knife in my hand.
B-Wad's
so
got
I
a
was just
knife
like,
in
okay,
his
what's
hand,
up?
and I'm standing there with a spork.
And we run up to the top, and we're like, if we're in a group, maybe we can take this bear.
So somebody did have bear spray on it.
And what'd you say whenever we saw those big old eyes and we thought it was a bear?
John
Yeah, that's true.
finally figures out it's a bull.
We'll cut
He
that out.
says, that's a bull. So next thing you know, McKinley's down on the beach, and that bull, he's right by where our kayaks are. But no, he never bothered him. He never walked on them or anything like that.
That's
But,
another thing we're afraid of. Is step on our boats,
we
and
was
then we're
afraid he's
screwed.
going to
You might
walk
have
through our
brought it up.
boats and
Knock them back out into the river.
1,500 pound bull. Yeah. Well, they were tied up, but I mean, if he'd
we
have walked,
No,
we had them flipped over because we were
He steps
expecting
on
the
it.
rain. So if he would have,
Yeah.
he could have walked right through the hole.
we had tethered them to some trees that were down there. That way, in case the water did get up,
Right.
because like I said, we were expecting some rain. So once we figured out it was a bull, everybody kind of calmed down. Caleb was like, "I'm going back to bed." So he goes to bed. Me and Garrett and B walk back down to the fire pit, and I'm like, "Phew, I was going to bed, but I think I'm going to have to drink a beer."
I pulled an IPA as
So-
that I'd planned on. Doing. I was like, nah, I'm gonna crank this one.
It's ready to go.
So
It was a very nice bull.
Yeah.
we're sitting there, and everybody's just kind of like
Chilling.
trying to gather themselves, and nobody's talking. And then B Watt, what'd you say, B Watt?
I said, just a possum, eh? And then right about the time I say that, about 4 baby armadillo come running back behind
Yeah,
us,
we-
shuffling through the leaves, and we're like, "Oh hell, it's coming back!"
We thought the bull was back.
Which I'd never seen an armadillo like live.
So,
in person.
bull-
Those were cool, and they didn't bother us. Like the first
Nah.
time they came
They
through,
were
Yeah.
like skipping. They weren't
They're
even
just
walking.
like a possum.
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
impossible.
but they
Like,
carry disease. So everybody goes to bed. B Watt hits tent. Gary hits tent. I'm over in the hammock. The wind starts blowing that night.
Yeah, the weather
It
showed
blew. It didn't really rain much, but got quite a bit of wind that night. Seems like that's happened to us 2 years in a row.
yes,
B Watt, I'm gonna let you take this one because you were
witnessed.
you were up close and personal to this part.
Yeah, mine and Garrett's tents were almost side by side,
We're close.
and yeah, we had the only 2 tents down there.
Yeah.
And I did have a scat pile by my tent, so I know that bull walked through there at one point, and I pointed it out to Garrett. But at this point, he'd kind of settled down. He was in his own little pasture. Everybody's pretty much on their way to dozing off or getting there anyway, and then the wind starts blowing, and it's blowing on the back of my head too. But I guess Garrett had fell asleep before I did.
I did.
I was still kind of awake
Hard
and
burp.
realized what was happening. But to Garrett, he didn't know. All he felt was pressure on the back of his head. He starts screaming, "The bull's sitting on me!" I was like,
Bloody
"No, dude, the wind. It's just your tent.
You're like, shut the hell up,
Yeah.
man! It's the wind.
What is going on over there?"
Yeah. So at one point, didn't you get out of the tent and the bull was in our camp?
I did, yeah. I just
You woke me up on that one.
You woke
well,
me up
I
with your
felt it
flashlight.
walk by my tent, and so
It wasn't-
We
he
both
didn't-
gotten back in our
He
tents.
didn't like walk in
And
between our
then-
tents.
That was when me and Garrett were just down there by our damn self, and Caleb was already in his.
Yeah.
Because I opened it up, because I thought you were making some noise. And I was
Thought
like,
it was-
Garrett, you doing something over there? We opened up, he's standing right there looking right at me. And me and him are like squared up.
He's standing right by fire. Like
But
we were,
again, not an aggressive bull, just
No.
curious.
we set our tent up probably
Yeah.
15, 20 feet away from the fire. Like I said, no, it wasn't a big fire.
But I wasn't about
He
to
was
yell
standing-
and make freak him out, but I was still like, Garrett, get up, man. He's right in front of me.
I looked down the tent and he's standing like right where the fire was.
And Garrett's like, what? He's like, no, he's looking right at me, bro.
And I didn't have my light. I didn't like spotlight him or anything, so I could only see like the silhouette. I was like, dang, he's right there.
You know, I never thought that maybe in the distance there was more,
You know, I never thought about that.
because there's usually not just one.
Well, usually it's a bull with a bunch of cows.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't ever think that
you know, fortunately he wasn't aggressive, but we
This was
were
a young
on.
bull. He was fairly
you were probably on somebody's farmland.
Well, so that's Buffalo National River. So that's a national park. And what they do is they let farmers run livestock on the national park land
Right.
because before the national park owned it, that's what it was. It was farms. So they don't say anything. So shouldn't be surprised to run into, a horse or a bull
I didn't get that
A
pamphlet
cow.
before we left.
or
Did you get what?
I did not
Well-
get that pamphlet before we left.
well, that lady in Gilbert was telling us because we was telling her the bull story.
I guarantee if you would have got out and walked a little bit, you probably
We'd
would
have
have found
seen-
the heifers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Probably so. And I didn't really think about that.
Well, it
till
all
just
made
now.
sense when we did see the
Cause
bullet.
after
Penny
looking
put
at the
it.
map, there is a barn.
There's probably a lot of
We
acres
woke up
left.
that morning and we
Oh,
asked
yeah.
everybody. We woke up that morning. We asked everybody like, how was your sleep? How you did? And like, well, we talked to Madeline and John and McKinley, and they're like, nah, dude, he was up here the entire night.
He was on that upper
He
level.
stayed on the
all
upper
night.
level and just roamed around. They're like, we didn't sleep worth a crap. He was here with us the entire night.
I mean, he watched us pack up the next morning.
Yeah,
Watched
he's
Oh,
us
so
still,
he was still there when you
until
woke
oh,
up?
yeah, he was like, so where I was to these guys, I was probably, 20, 30 yards away from them in the trees. And he was over the bank, maybe 30 yards from where I was at. And
No,
he
we
watched
watched
us
him that
all morning long.
We watched him that morning walk right past your house.
Yeah, because I watched him
I thought he
walk
was gonna
by.
walk into
Because
it.
I thought, man, if he trips on one of them stakes and he gets spooked, of course, the worst that could happen is just tear the
Yeah.
tarp down. But
If you got that tangled in it,
yeah,
your shit's gone.
but he just walked right on
That
down,
wasn't good.
and he didn't bother anybody really, other than just
I mean-
spooking us.
Anything else interesting happen on another story?
That was not two.
That was not two, but Bull's
That was
not two.
not two.
Not three was the greatest
Not three was
campsite in the world. That
It's
not
beautiful.
three was day 3 on the river.
Where the weather
And that
was
was-
shitty when we
well,
woke up.
Weather was terrible all the way.
windy.
Day. We'll start Camp 3 today.
Yes.
after the bull.
Packing your gear in the rain is never fun. I mean, it's just, but if you're going to do stuff like it, it's part of it. You got to embrace the sun. Just do it.
We were fortunate
But
though.
it's
We were
not the best way to start a day.
No.
we were up under that canopy of trees, so that kept a lot of the rain off us till we got to the river.
It never
So-
really rained hard, but just windy, rainy.
So day 3 was kind of
Chilly.
rainy off and on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cloudy, overcast most of the day.
Lunch was hard to cook because the wind was blowing your.
I mean, we're on the river. Yeah, we're wet, but there's a difference. Hard crack. There's a difference between river wet and sunshine and river wet plus rain.
Yeah.
Overcast.
Yeah.
45-degree winds. That was our rough day. We thought going in to day 3, we're like, God, day 2 on the river sucked. We pushed 24 to 27 miles, somewhere around there. That was
Day
awful.
2 was long, but I had fun.
Yeah. I mean, well, heck, all you
We
did was
just-
just
we-
paddle, paddle, paddle.
Yeah, we just pushed all day. There wasn't a whole lot to see, so we were fortunate there. It's not like we skipped a bunch of stuff. Day 3
There was stuff to see, too.
was the day we went. We saw the Nars and we saw Skull Bluff.
Yeah. Like I said, we thought day 2 was crappy. Great camp spot, crappy situation. Long day. And then we come into day 3, we're like, well, we can't get any worse than day 2. That was long. We don't have to make up that many miles. And by God, if that wasn't our worst day. Like, it was just brutal out there on the river. It wasn't near as windy as our last day on the Current, but it was just nasty weather. And
Morale was low. To say
yes,
the
it
least.
was. We were all kind of down and out. That's kind of when you find yourself on the river, is whenever you're into it, but you're just like, God, this sucks.
It's hard to get
And you
motivated.
have hard to get motivated to keep going, but then you start to take in the beauty of
There wasn't a
everything.
whole
Yeah.
lot of conversation. That
No.
day.
Quiet day.
Yeah.
Quiet
when
day,
you do
head
trips in the
down.
backcountry, and you got your ups and downs, but at the same time, step back and remind yourself what you're doing and where you're at, and then it's not that bad.
You sit there and we're not talking a lot to each other. We don't, like Jerome said, not a lot of conversation. Surprisingly, Madeline and John and McKinley are like right there with us the entire time on day 3. I think because their morale was low, they're like, dang, we don't really want to be alone.
Right.
We want to be with the group. And B. Watt and Caleb weren't taking off and leaving everybody like they normally do. They're known for that. Especially once things calm down a little bit.
They're usually in the front until they say, "All right, it's time to find a place to camp," and then we
Or
all
even-
kind of pull back together.
Or even there's a time to find lunch. Let's let Jerome or Garrett get up here and find us a spot.
Yeah.
Where do y'all want to stop?
Yeah.
What about when you're packing up rainy days? How hard is it to get
On
it
rainy
to dry
days?
back out when you go to that night's camp?
Oh, our stuff was wet. I didn't even think about that. Golly, thank you for bringing up the wet stuff because my day one, my clothes bag had my sleeping gear, got freaking soaked. I did not know I had a leaking bag, and I soaked my sleeping gear. So luckily, it was 60 degrees that night. And I didn't need all the stuff that I had, but
Able to put
I
it
had
out.
I had to dry it out that night, not to, until it rained, and I was like, God, I'm kind of screwed. And I still had to dry out my stuff. Knot 3 was colder than the rest of our knots, but I still had to dry out my clothes while we were at camp on Knot 3.
Oh, that's you got your hoodies.
Yeah,
soaking. That's
my,
when you
my
pull
hoodie,
that out, yeah.
my sweatpants, my long johns, like everything was soaked. If you're packing up in the rain, your sleeping bag might get a little wet, but you're very careful. Like I did all my packing inside of my tent.
Yeah, I was gonna say when we were in Boy Scouts, that's what they taught us to do. Pack all your stuff up in the tent first before you pack your tent last.
Yeah.
It's always last.
And
Absolutely. I mean, that's common sense,
Yeah.
though, isn't it?
yeah,
Well, you'd be
I
surprised.
mean, I
We
love
had a lot of
tent. Tree 110 went up again, but it's common sense, right?
packed a lot of my stuff outside my tent. Had my little camping chair.
Oh, it's a
It's a lot
beautiful
easier.
morning.
You know, it's a great
Well,
morning.
it's different when
easy.
it's nice out,
But-
because then you can pull everything out and
For me, morning 3. I've like I said, never primitive camped. So sitting there, not being in my chair in the morning, sitting in the middle of my tent, packing everything up, not being able to stand up, having to bend over, it's a little different. And I will say, whenever we go on the current, I was very, very thankful to be in a hammock whenever it was raining that morning and I was able to pack up my stuff.
Yeah, see, when I packed up, I just stayed up under the tarp, packed everything.
The
I
whole
didn't
time?
have anything get dry or get wet. The only thing that was wet was my tarp, and I shook it dry as I could get it. That's how I packed it. By the time we got to Camp 3, I unrolled it, tied it off. It was dry before I could get the hammock set up.
Packing up in the tent, it's just cramped up. And my first time, it took me a little bit longer that day, honestly. My first day, I packed up surprisingly quick. I woke up an hour early than I wanted to. Had all my stuff done. I was like, well, all right. I know how long this is actually going to take me on the river. I did it a couple times at home, be like, all right, here's everything set up. I'm going to take it down. Let's get it all packed up, But being on the river, I knew it was going to be different. So I was like, I'm waking up early, and I was making sure I had enough time to get all my stuff done. And it was quick. I was packed up pretty.
Yeah.
pretty
Speaking
significant
of test packing at the house, I brought my boat inside the house
time.
and put it on the ottoman. Eric makes fun of me because everything's got its own bag, its own location, and that way it just packs easier, trying to keep everything dry on the river, and I'm in a little more compact.
You hear that?
Hear what?
That hard crack.
So I brought the boat in the house and set it up on the ottoman and was test fitting everything, making sure everything had fit, and it was in the living room for 2 days before Christy said, "When'd you bring that boat in here?" She's a night shift nurse, so she's usually a zombified, coming in and going out.
And I
As
practice.
far as sorry, I just want to
yeah,
make
fine.
one point. As far as packing up camp on days when you got to cover some miles, don't be that guy that everybody's waiting on.
McKinley.
Love you, McKinley, but yeah.
I'm so afraid to be that guy that I'm gonna get up, get my bearings about me, get a little breakfast, and then just I want to be sitting here. I want to be sitting waiting on people instead of somebody waiting on
The
me.
current river trip was probably more of a McKinley trip because it was late mornings and early days, 10 to 13 miles a day,
Yes.
just easy going.
Sorry, McKinley, we took you on the wrong trip. If you're listening to this.
We were never in too big a hurry.
So we're on Camp 3.
Camp 3.
Oh, yeah.
Rainy
That's
day.
why day 3 I started the day with a Pop-Tart and a beer. It was just that kind of morning.
Oh, it was
In my
That
boat,
was the,
eating Pop-Tart, drinking
It
beer.
was definitely island time.
that
Dave.
was definitely like we said, low morale. We were like, we're cracking one early. Everyone did.
I believe we all drank a beer that
No
morning.
warm breakfast a day. Pop-Tart and a brewcasky.
Oh, I had warm breakfast every morning. I did.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was great.
I've been with Garrett on one trip, and
I was spread out like a warm
He
breakfast
always ate
every
good.
morning.
I had to take care of this leprechaun body.
Lucky Charms. Anyway, we get down late in the day to find we're looking for a campsite. We stopped a couple of places and it just wasn't going to work out. We was all right. One more try. Let's just go just a little bit farther, and we're not running out of daylight, but the sun
But
had
the
come
weather
out.
had changed.
The weather had changed.
It
It was
It's
pretty.
beautiful.
Turn in
It was
our favor,
beautiful.
for sure. The
And
clouds.
It wasn't
we had
hot.
decided we were going to get off the river earlier
Mhm.
that day. No matter what, we were like, we're getting off earlier.
So we,
Yeah,
we
when you
stopped it.
get in that area, those clouds move. Those pressure systems move a lot faster.
yeah, than they do here and where we're at. You hear that?
What's that?
Park
Park? Right?
All right, boys. Let's just go just a little bit farther and see what we got. Come around the bend, get off the water. Me and Garrett walk up, and I think there's a video of Garrett. Garrett was so happy. Beautiful campsite.
I said, Jerome, this is the spot.
Yeah.
This is where we're staying at tonight.
Beautiful red
Oh
rock
my
bluff.
God. Most beautiful camp spot I've ever stayed in my life. Even there wasn't anything that touched it on the current.
This is the most picturesque bluff on that.
That
well,
definitely
stretch we
that
did
section
anyway.
of
I don't know
river.
what's downriver, but
But it was
to
just
that point,
gorgeous.
you come around a bend, huge bluff, huge beach to your right.
Rapids.
I mean,
And it
just
that bluff faced, kind of west, maybe a little southwest, but the sun was setting on it, and it stayed lit all evening. And it was just gorgeous.
It was great.
amazing. Sleeping on sand earlier.
Yeah.
How uncomfortable it is. A lot of people would assume sand would be more comfortable than a rock bed, but not the case.
No,
Oh, yeah.
it's just
That was
the
the
opposite.
best. That was the best sleep I had that night.
That
too.
it was little.
I was laying on.
I don't know. You
Uh,
put your
a
fingers
rock
together, and
bed,
that's your. That's about how big of pebbles they were, and they were amazing.
Smooth, flat river rock.
Yeah, it was great
Awesome.
river rock.
Give you a good back massage.
Well, I'll say we didn't have any disturbances. We had a little bird.
You boys fished a little.
Yeah, caught some fish. Got some good stuff. I didn't do as good as.
We had us a little fire
killed them.
going. Our fire master B had us a little pit and a little fire going.
We were maybe a half mile river wise from a campground,
From Woolham Campground.
and
yeah.
you couldn't hear anybody from the campground. Even early in the day,
That
people
bluff,
moving around.
there's actually a hiking trail on top of that bluff.
There's a highway,
and it's
too.
And it's a lookout. And then there's a highway. Well, it's not a highway. It's
A road.
the road into the campsite.
Yeah.
Campground is right on the other side. But now we didn't have any noise
Except for that bird.
except for the bird.
But the other thing, I swear it followed us all the way down the river because it was every night, just
And then-
freaking all over us. That whole night, and they were just boom, lighting us up, and it was loud coming off that rock bluff. There were some interesting things that night. Popped up.
There was
Some of this I've not heard of. 'Cause I was talking about it. Something else that was pretty much a different night. So this is new for me.
I don't know if the listening audience believes in UFOs, but it was a UFO, and it looked like a freight train in the sky.
Yeah.
And,
He was laying down the tent already.
How long did it happen?
You got to see it out of the top of your
Oh,
tent.
for a
Yeah.
good 5 minutes, you could see it. And first thing I thought it was a shooting star or a meteor, actually.
Which we did see many of those that
We
night.
did
'cause we had
see some
beautiful
of those.
skies.
And the first meteor I ever seen, I thought was a UFO. Scared the daylights out of me. I was in the middle of Oklahoma and it spooked me, but I thought that's what it was. Turns out it wasn't. It looked like a train going through the sky, didn't it?
Yeah, it was super bright, and it had tails and flares coming off of it, so it wasn't.
Fast or slow?
It was slow.
Kind of slow.
Well, I guess it
on
would be slow if you said about 5
It
minutes.
kind of traveled horizontal and then turned vertical on us.
So wait, am I supposed to believe that you two are believers of UFOs?
Here's the thing.
No, I'm just
We-
leading up to the story.
Yeah,
To what it
Y'all
actually
bury the
was.
lead.
Madeline.
Which what's it called? It's called SpaceX. But nobody knew
and
what
we
it
did
was
not
till we
have
got home.
service on the river the entire time,
Yeah, no service.
so we don't even.
That
Speaking of
must be
which,
why.
we didn't know who won the championship game that night. We didn't know what was going on in the world. We thought we were getting invaded by war. Like we thought we were about to die. Like we were like, oh well, at least we're here on the Buffalo. We're gonna die from a war. That's great. These lights had flares coming off of them. and it looked really weird, and I was like, dang it, it really might be a UFO. I don't know.
To make myself go to sleep, that was a meteor. I just left it at that.
Yeah,
Well, I saw the shooting star just out of the little net in my tent because I was afraid
they're
if I tried to get out, I'd miss it. So I just looked up, saw it. But I don't know what the hell y'all talking about as far as this up and out.
it was
I
almost
missed
like
that
5 different lights moving around in the sky. That's what it looked like. But
In a line.
That's
It
UFO.
looked like a train.
Gotta be.
yeah,
Were they rotating like a tilt-a-whirl?
yeah. I mean, they came down.
Too far away to tell.
Too far away for a tilt-a-whirl?
I couldn't tell if it was a tilt-a-whirl. But anyway, that was probably one of the best campsites we've ever
It was
had.
beautiful. It was great.
It was.
I again set my tent up where I woke up and I was
So it's,
facing that rock bluff.
so it's pretty much a drama-free night.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, definitely. It was. Everybody slept good.
chill.
I don't know, it
You
was great.
had some water in the background. I mean, just relaxing, just super good.
Good
night.
moving.
It
That was
wasn't.
That was the only night. Besides night one, we had a little bit of moving water in
Yep.
front of our campground, but like you couldn't hear it.
Wasn't very cool.
But, like,
it was comfortable.
That night it was
temperature.
loud. It was loud running water. Like it had a little bit of rapids in it.
Yeah. Day 4, we take off. It's not a whole lot to look at from there on down.
There was some cool like
Some
pillar-
bluffs
What was
and
that
Pillared
cave
hills.
y'all
rocks.
got in?
Yeah.
Y'all got into a cave.
It was at the very end. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
We
towards the
got on
end.
that long little kind of straightaway.
Mhm.
yeah, because you pedaled back up.
Yeah,
to
me
us.
and Caleb. I looked at Caleb and I looked back and I thought, man, did we miss the takeout? Because I knew we were kind of
getting close.
on that path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's a cave, Garrett's going in the cave.
Yeah, it was a cool
Yeah.
little. Really, it's an undercut from the bluff,
That's all it is.
and it was. I mean, it was a
We
cool
go
little
back.
spot.
We're going.
Oh, it wasn't really cave. It was more of just an undercut from the bluff.
I mean,
But it
in
was
boats.
cool, yeah. So we just went back into it under the boats and hung
But it was
out.
undercut, I don't know, 20, 30 foot back. You could
Yeah.
paddle up under it. It was nice.
There was really just kind of rocks that fell off the bluff and made rock pillars in the middle of the river.
That was
there's
about
a
13
really
miles in because that's where my phone went dead and I quit tracking.
there's a really cool rapid that
Yeah.
Madeline and John almost came out of the canoe on, and it was you're coming down through there. I think this is on day 4. This is the beginning of day 4,
It was
early.
after our lunch break.
Oh, John
Was that
did
the one
get
you're
shit
talking
with
about?
where it made a 90-degree turn, and it's right up against the rock bluff, and it was like
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
was that
nasty.
was the last day.
it was a cool rapid.
You were the only one. That
I was the
didn't
only
wash
one
out.
that rode it all the way through. And I'm in my 12-foot ascend.
Everybody else jump out.
No,
No.
it just it would
It'd
so
wash you out.
The river turns to the left, but as you come out through that rapid, it would wash you out and eddy you out to the right.
Okay.
And it got every one of us except
Except
for
for
Garrett.
Yeah,
I was going to bring that up.
Trust me,
earlier.
he was patting himself on the back too, brother. I ain't kidding.
Oh, dude, I was hot.
Was you
When we were
nervous?
talking about the favorite spots and all that, that was my second one.
That was
You
so,
know,
it was so cool.
I liked that stretch of river, and then here you come. You rode the channel
Yeah.
out. You know,
Yeah, and that's
You were close to riding all the way out. I think you
I
made the
did not want to
closest.
get my face next to that.
Did you hit it on purpose or did it?
Oh yeah, I hit it
Oh,
on
yeah.
purpose.
Everybody,
you can
come
see
through.
the-
I mean, you
Garrett's
could have missed
always
it,
looking
but
for action.
we all
Well,
went through.
Here's the problem though: if you tried to miss it, you would hit that like you had to ride the current a little bit, or else you hit the eddy and it's going to flip your boat. Like
It was gonna turn
You
you
were going to
anyway.
turn, but you had to ride the current just a little bit and then get pushed out to the eddy.
Garrett just caught the perfect line on it.
I rode that sucker all the way left, right up next to the bank, and I was digging as hard as I could, right paddle down, just freaking riding that wave right up against the rock bluff, and it was the coolest moment on the kayak, like doing
I'm trying
stuff on
to
it.
think if we've
Oh, I
got
saw
some of
you
that
did.
on video.
I do. I
somewhere.
have my whole rapid of it, like the whole run of that rapid on the video, and it was. You can tell I was hot. I was.
So the last days, the last day, how many? We had 20 exactly to cover. Right?
Well, we were,
Yes.
yeah, and the phone stopped at 13, and that's where that undercut was, and then it was another 7 down to. But now we covered that ground fast because we left it. I think we tried
Oh, yeah.
to be on the water by 9 o'clock, and then we'd
Maybe
stop and either
9:30, 10,
Yeah.
and then by noon we'd
We'd-
already done 10 miles.
we'd hit a little lunch,
Without
and-
trying too hard.
No.
but
That fat is moving that good.
Yeah, I mean we
It's
hit that
fast.
rapid. We hit
were
that one
halfway
rapid
there.
very early, and then it was flat water, but moving.
Because
Yep.
we stopped to eat lunch. That's when BWAP found all the butterflies.
That's when we started getting cell service.
And we
back.
had cell service. You talked to your mom.
Talked to
Which
B-Mom. Told her, yo, what's going on?
B-Mom
We'll
was
be there in about 3
savior
hours,
of the day because
On day 4, didn't you have a delivery?
We had Sonic burgers with all the fixings. We had a 30-pack of Bush on ice waiting for us. And a couple packs of smokes. Yeah.
And we did share the bush. That was not gone by the time they got there. But they were.
well, she
like,
didn't know everybody else was with us.
No.
She just thought it was
Oh,
Us
so you
us
showed
four.
up before they did?
We were about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
hour
we-
and a half.
Yeah, they got to a point to where they decided, hey, we're not in that big a hurry.
Because
Get
we were
there,
about
get there,
done.
because-
And they knew we were
Yeah.
about done. Because we had eaten lunch together. It was like, you ain't got very far to go. And we're off the river. We'll be in Gilbert because the river was moving fast that day.
So nobody was in too big of a hurry. So we finished about an hour and a half in front of them. And
I've never
B-Mom,
eaten a hamburger so fast, I'll tell you that.
no. B-Mom delivers us 6 hamburgers, and we split.
Ice cold beers.
We each had
hot
one and a half.
hamburgers.
Ice
All the
cold,
way.
too. It was the first cold beer we'd had in a week, because Caleb poured all of our ice out when he turned over on day one.
We split. We each had 1.5 hamburgers, and it was the best. Like I don't eat lettuce, tomato, and everything.
You
You did that day.
You were not picky that day.
The
Nobody
only thing-
asked what's on this. They
So the
just
only
said,
thing I
"Give me
did pick
one."
off was pickles because I don't do pickles.
I ate your pickles.
But-
You still stop for the
Hey,
pickles. How
the
are we
pickles.
friends? That's awesome.
The second
That
delivery,
taco pizza.
Oh,
you know,
How long was
hey,
that after the burger?
If you got a
That
Casey's
was
in your
nighttime.
town,
That was
go
night.
get
It was
a taco
about
pizza from
7,
Casey's.
8 o'clock
They're
when
awesome.
she showed up. She showed up with a case of Tall Boy Budweiser, a fifth of Makers, 3
No,
pizzas.
John had that maker.
No, she brought
No,
another
she
Oh,
brought-
fifth.
oh, did she? Hell, I don't know.
That's
We were getting.
a
Yeah.
whole different story because John had already said, this ain't going home with me. And Garrett said,
you ain't gotta worry
Okay.
about that.
okay. Challenge accepted, wasn't it, Garrett?
Oh yeah. Between me and B-Watt.
So,
Oh man.
Burn
Yeah.
up B-Watt. Poor little B-Watt's little legs was red as cherries.
oh, did you get
I'm
your-
sure anybody that's going to listen to this has done anything similar to what we're talking about. You know that last night, that yeah, hey, we all did it, hell yeah. And we're on a beach, it's warm, we have to stay here
We
tonight.
had a fire.
Let's party.
Yeah, we partied.
So
Let's,
Yeah, we did.
let's slather up, let's take a shower in the river, and let's fucking party.
So let's hear about the fire.
So we're sitting around. Of course, this bottle of Makers has made it.
I just remember the pizza. I ate about 6 pizzas of that stuff.
Yeah, that pizza
Good
was
God.
awesome. Casey's Pizza's coming to Tennessee, and I think there's one open in Knoxville.
The taco pizza.
Oh,
The taco pizza's on point. We go through the pizza. Garrett keeps trying to get McKinley to drink another beer. McKinley's like, I'm done. I don't want another. So every time Garrett hands McKinley a beer, he hands it to me. And I just take it and set it down by my chair, which Garrett can't see, Like I said, we're in it's dark. There's just firelight. The Makers goes empty. And then the next thing you know, Garrett B. was, somebody said, well, that's the last beer. I'm just giggling because I've got 6 sitting beside of me.
My
and
legs were so sunburned that last night.
yes.
so
I couldn't stand by the fire. That's why I was.
you were standing behind Garrett
stand
because
next to
your
fire.
legs
It
were
burns so
burned
bad.
up. Yeah.
Is that's what you learned that day, that trip?
Yeah.
Wear you some leggings.
I'm getting a closed cockpit. I ain't getting
Or
this
wear a
ride
skirt.
Yeah. Well, he was, he was
Put
in
on
that, he was in that Ascend, which, it's open cockpits.
Wear you some leggings.
Them little legs got burned up.
I wore them in the car.
I did too. I wear them out every
I
time.
wear them. I take 2 pair. I got a river pair and I got a night pair that I sleep in.
Lessons learned for sure on the first trip.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know,
What not to
I
do.
was prepared enough to be somewhat comfortable, but you learn things as you go. That's just
Oh,
the
for
way as anything goes.
That was,
Sometimes all these YouTube videos and all that stuff, sometimes you just gotta go out there and do it, man. And then
Yeah.
figure out what you need for your personal.
That's true. It's a big learning experience.
so
anyways.
what Justin keeps referring to, the fire. we just had drug this big log up, and it's about 4 foot long, maybe, and we throw it in the fire. We're playing music. I'm videoing Garrett because he's just singing his heart out.
Country roads.
And he says, "Get that camera out of my face." And he comes up to slap at me, and he misses me, and he goes, "Hands first into the fire." And I'm thinking, oh God. And I grab him by the waistband and pull him out, thinking that he's going to have these little burn up nubs when he comes back. I don't know how he did it, but when he fell, he hit that log, and it had just been put in the fire pit. And it
Wasn't that hot?
I do remember that part.
Didn't
I
actually
don't remember like
coals.
falling in the fire, but I do remember saying, I said,
That
yeah,
could have been bad.
I planned to land on that log.
Yeah.
Like, because it's on video, I'm pretty sure. But I was like, yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
planned
I
to
have-
land on that log.
I have video of that. I have video of you marking the beach.
Woo.
I have video of you and B, because I usually up before everybody, so I'd done had 2 cups of coffee, and I walked by, and he's just sawing logs, and I had to video him in his tent. But that was, so that's the buffalo. I mean, that was day 4. And
Day 4 was actually the last.
that
Yeah.
was day,
Day 4, not 4.
Day four,
we woke
night
up day 5 and
day
packed
5.
in
And that
We
was
were
the
packing.
roughest trip home for me. I had to
They,
get about 4 cups of coffee before we got into Tennessee.
yeah, I think I told B what I said. I think you're going to have to drive.
He did not.
Garrett drove
Yeah,
like a
I-
champ.
That was the first time I did do a little napping.
Me and Caleb, about half our conversation home was, wonder how Garrett's feeling now.
Wasn't good. I'll say that.
So that's the buffalo.
What?
What is it?
What?
What happened?
Did you
What's
hear
that?
Oh shit! Here it comes. Heart attack.
that?
So yeah, there's the buffalo for you. I hope you enjoyed it.
So-
And if you want to relive it and test our authenticity of our storytelling, there's a
And keep
There
dreaming
is
because it
a-
ain't gonna happen.
there's a YouTube video out there that
there's
has full 100% proof of everything that we talked about.
so search Garrett Hillard on YouTube.
Yeah, Gary Hillard on YouTube.
It starts with my video starts with you asleep,
Yeah.
and ends with you in the fire.
Yep. My video starts with the fish taking off, and it's a really good video. So it recaps every single bit of the trip, pretty much. So just go watch that and
So
test our storytelling.
the buzzer in the background, that was Stephanie. So some of these stories you're going to hear is going to be crazy things that these guys has found in cabins, and it won't all be kayaking. It won't all
Oh,
be
no.
stories. But Justin's got like 3,700
Obviously.
hobbies that we're going to have to reel him in on and get him down to a
That's
couple.
going to be like a.
Let's do a
Month-long
weekly
episode.
whiskey review.
Yeah.
Got anything else to add, B-What?
Yeah, I do. I did the whiskey review where y'all walked in after taking a break in the Jameson Cask IPA edition. Wish I had more hands so I give more thumbs up.
I got one thing for Garrett.
All right.
Buffalo trip is your first primitive camp. What do you feel about it now?
Primitive camping or my first?
Primitive camping.
Oh.
That was your first
Yeah.
actual.
I learned a lot. 100% love hammock camping more than tent camping. I did tent camping and then hammock camping on the current, and I absolutely love the hammock camping. It was a lot easier to pack for. The new boat that I have, it's going to be 10 times easier than having a tent. I feel like I'm not bad at it.
I know you did pretty good when we were in the current. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty self-sufficient, and
He would have never known that that was his first primitive
Thank you,
camping
Big
trip. So I mean, it was he was great. You would have, like I said, you would have never known, would you, B-Book?
No, absolutely not.
it was...
But to be completely honest, I didn't really either. I mean, yeah, I grew up Boy Scouts and all that, but to just get there self-sufficient on your own.
I think a lot of
Yeah,
people
but-
stay in campgrounds, and that's camping to them, and
and that's what a lot of my childhood camping was. It was being a camper with my mom and dad.
But
on
there's
on
always
Fritz
that.
Broad.
There's always that little bit of safety net that you feel.
I mean, heck, I told you that
Yeah, we
night
can
we were.
always walk back to the truck. It's
Yeah,
all good.
I mean,
Yeah.
I told Jerome the other night. I was like, whenever I camped as a kid, I drove back to the house one time when I was 16 to go grab something Mama forgot 3 nights in a row. You know, it wasn't that big a deal. And growing up as a kid, I never really was an outdoorsy person. I was all sports,
It's-
basketball, football. You
Don't
know,
feel too bad, Garrett, because I did have to explain to an adult human being that there are no Ubers in the middle of nowhere.
oh, you did.
She's
First
pretty,
time
little
I lived here in Kodak my entire life, right off 407 exit going to the Smoky Mountains. First time I ever stepped foot in the Smoky Mountains other than a field trip was I was 17 going on 18. I had never kayaked till I was 21, 22 years old. Didn't see really any whitewater till I got to Hartford, you know, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. Not growing up doing Boy Scouts, you know, I was kind of leery about how I was going to do out there.
Yeah, but
And
you
I-
grew
you know,
up
I get a little-
athletic. You grew up
Yeah,
in
I was-
sports. You didn't have time for scouts.
No, I didn't. Me and Trish went camping one time, and I tried to start a fire, and it was not good. It was terrible. And then Trish was like, "Have you never made a fire?" And I was like, "Not outside of a fireplace." And she was like, "Okay, well, let me teach you." And I was like, "All right." So she
So she handled
she helped
that.
me out. Yeah, she helped out, and she's like, "This is how you do it." Trish gets a little shout out of
I'm out,
We
baby.
got a whole new
you've heard that
spin-off
story.
series. How did you try to start this fire?
Oh, it was not small logs. I'll say that. It was not small sticks.
You
I
didn't
started
have no
off
kindling.
with smaller
Yeah, you always
sticks, but it
started
was
kindling.
like, well, yeah, I did not
You just
start
thought you were
with
gonna be like, boom, fire.
yeah, with lighter fluid.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
man.
Newspaper. Yeah,
Thought you was going to use his little
I was like,
lucky
all right,
charm
I got
magic.
I made my little. I did make my TP, but it was with big logs, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna spray this with some lighter fluid.
I will. I
put
will.
some cardboard and newspaper, and let's see how this goes.
Better
Trish like,
method
that's not
than
how you
a-
do it.
Better method than a teepee is do it at log house.
Yes,
That's
I
the
agree.
kind- that's the
But
way I like to
that's
do
how I
mine.
started out. This is how I'm gonna do it.
But when I do mine, I do my log house kind of into a pyramid.
Yeah.
But it has more. It leaves you more. What?
Boys. Get
Yeah.
your shit together. When we're talking about fires, what you gotta do.
Is you say, hey, B-Wad,
You know that
where you
Drake
building
song,
the fire at?
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta think about when you're thinking about.
see, that's
building
what
a fire.
I always just say, hey, B-Wad, where you building your fire? And I'll carry him some wood over there, you know. I'll let
Yeah, he's
B-Wad
got it.
handle the
You get
fire.
your little stuff going. You get.
So
your
he's a
little
scout.
thing, then you don't set it on it.
No.
You hold it over it for a little bit till
Yeah.
it catches, and
Oh,
then you place it.
I know now.
Then you start building.
Then you
your
start
TP.
building your
You go
pyramid
TP
or your
middle, Lincoln log
Lincoln logs.
center. You know.
But what?
I did skip
I'll
a
keep
few
you
steps
warm,
when
I'll
I
tell you
mentioned
that.
that.
No, it was particular. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
Best
why
thing,
I'm
too,
telling you, boys.
Which also,
Just left it
Working
too.
formula.
if you build a fire, the best bet's to build it in dig a hole.
That B-Wad did
And
every
who
time.
did that?
Be what.
Heard that.
But that way is like when you cover it up at night. When you wake up in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
you just uncover it and you can blow it back.
Yeah, because Eric, every time Eric would start a
He
fire,
cheated.
he'd pull out the Ryobi blower.
He cheated.
Look, if I'm in a do or die situation, cool. Like, let's do what we gotta do. But I do like to. We're not freezing our ass.
We,
off.
Yeah.
We can play around with
Yeah, I mean, you're not in a life or death situation. It's you can carry some luxuries in a kayak where you can't in a backpack.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
Like
Eric.
an aerobic air blower.
Well, you know, Eric has an Escalade, a
it. Well, you're
17-foot
17,
Mad
yeah.
River that he
You do what you want, right?
loads down.
I mean, you almost brought scuba gear. So.
I did.
Scuba Steve, damn you!
you bet Scuba Steve this
We'll,
for sure.
we'll leave the scuba for another day.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Well,
so-
we'll wrap it up. Thank y'all for sharing your all stories of the Buffalo River.
I
Thanks
hope
for
you
letting
guys
us jaw
enjoyed it.
jack with you.
Yeah, I hope you all enjoy it. That's about
Hope
it for
you
the night.
hope it makes you laugh as much as it's made us laugh. You know.
I'll carry your bag any day, Chief.
Well, does anybody want to end it off with a
Of course, right now we're in the middle of planning to go back to the Buffalo.
Yep.
And but we're going to cover our trip to the Current And that way we can hear a little more about Justin's trip.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't with us on the
Yeah,
Buffalo,
so his
but he's going this year.
first 2 episodes. Well,
But
the
we
beginning
want to
of the
hear
Pirates.
more. Yeah, we need to hear more out of Paco.
Oh yeah, and I think it's
He's
about to
in
come.
for a treat.
It's about to get there.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Hey.
Love you,
Peace.
boys.